And the death toll from storms across Asia that began last week have now risen above 1,000. That number is expected to grow as emergency teams scale up search and relief efforts across the region. Sri Lanka, Thailand and Malaysia are all dealing with loss of life and widespread devastation. Indonesia has been worst hit, with rescuers only now able to reach some of the affected areas.
As rain and floodwaters recede in Indonesia, the scale of devastation is becoming clear. Thick mud covers entire villages, coating homes, crops and vehicles.
There was nothing that could be saved, just my clothes. When I tried to get something, the water reached my head. I was swept away.
While hundreds have been confirmed killed in the flooding and landslides, hundreds more remain missing. Rescue workers are racing to reach some of the hardest hit on the island of Sumatra, digging into landslides as they search for anyone who may have become trapped. With roads and access cut off, thousands are still without access to critical supplies.
I hope the government will help us more quickly in the future, especially for school children. It would be a shame if they weren't in school for too long. As for my home, it was destroyed.
Indonesia was just one of several countries in the wider region to be hit by torrential rain. The annual monsoon season has coincided with tropical storms to cause some of the worst flooding in years. Several people were killed in Malaysia, in addition to more than 160 people in Thailand and at least 350 in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's government has declared a state of emergency, describing it as the, quote, most challenging natural disaster in the country's history. Scientists warn climate change is turbocharging storms like those seen in recent weeks, with the warmer atmosphere holding more moisture and creating more devastating heavy rain events.
Well, Amal Jayasinghe is Colombo Bureau Chief for the news agency AFP in Sri Lanka. He told me how bad the flooding was.
Well, the floods seem to be receding, particularly in and around the capital, but in the central part of the country, with some of the roads being cleared, the picture that is emerging is quite bleak. We have something like 350 people confirmed killed at the moment, and another 370 or so listed as missing for the last 3 or 4 days. So even today, security forces dug out several bodies of people who had been buried alive. So as access becomes easier, the grim task of clearing the debris and pulling out bodies has begun. So it looks like, sadly, the death toll will climb.
And how is that access being achieved? We're looking at pictures of helicopters and boats going into places.
Yes, around the capital, some of the low-lying areas have been flooded, and the Navy has been using boats to access those people. In some cases, water has gone above the second floor of some of the buildings, and single-storied houses, you just can't even see them. So the Navy is taking care of sending supplies and transporting them to safety, evacuating them and things like that. But the worst affected is the central hill country, where you have a lot of tea plantations. The mountains became very saturated with intense rain for about 4 or 5 days, and some of the mountain slopes came crashing down. So they have trees coming down has actually blocked access, and also the what we call landslides. So getting into those places has been very difficult. So we really don't have a full, complete picture particularly from the districts which are in the center of the country.
And Colombo has asked for international assistance. What's needed?
Well, essentially, for the immediate relief operations, they need things like some kind of expertise to go and dig in these places where people are buried, because some of the houses have been buried. So it's possible that there could still be some people trapped alive. So for that kind of recovery, Sri Lankans don't really have that kind of expertise. So already we know that the Indians have sent some specialized teams, so has Pakistan, and Japan has pledged a lot of assistance, especially with medical teams. So that is what Sri Lanka is looking for immediately. But the real big task of cleaning up and then subsequently rebuilding, now that's going to be something very, very challenging for the Sri Lankan government. It's actually coming out of a very serious economic crisis.
Amal, Sri Lanka does have a monsoon climate and suffers regular floods. Is this disaster in line with previous events?
Well, the monsoon is actually quite welcome in Sri Lanka because a lot of hydroelectricity is generated from monsoon rains. But in this case, the problem is that we had such intense rain within a very short period of time. In some places, there was 500 millimeters of rain in just a matter of 12 hours. That's roughly about a year's rain within 12 hours. So that has really caused massive flooding almost everywhere in the country. Now, what is unique about this disaster is that every district in the country has been affected in some way or the other. Previous big drought or previous big flood we had in Sri Lanka was 2016 and 2017, but they were kind of localized in a particular area. This time, it's across the country. So that is why it has become quite difficult to deal with this disaster compared to previous ones.
Thank you so much for talking us through that, Amal. Amal Jayasinghe from AFP News Agency in Colombo.
Thank you for having me.